Well, that's a long story actually, but there was this strange fascination I always had with boomerangs, and I have no clue actually why. I listened to a tape, a child's storytelling tape, and it had to do with the boomerang, and I was completely fascinated and hooked. And then years later, actually I saw a television show where a person put an apple on his head, threw a boomerang and cut the apple into two halves. And that was the moment when I got hooked again and started making my own. Well, there's more than one answer to that question actually, because on the one hand it is a million great memories of different people I had the pleasure to spend time with in many different places in the world, just sharing this fascinating hobby and passion for boomerangs. So there is just, the head is completely filled up with all these memories. That's the one thing. And the other is, of course, throwing boomerangs in strange places, and you remember that you have been somewhere throwing and catching a boomerang. You remember this place, you remember the boomerang, you remember the feeling about it. And of course there's the competitive part, right? There's special tournaments, and obviously the one that stuck with me the most is the World Cup, actually 2008 in Seattle, because that was the best probably I ever had. Well, first of all, do what your heart tells you to do, right? Follow your passion, because I think that's the best starting point. And enjoy what you're doing. So then when it comes to the competitive piece, obviously there is a very simple rule, which means practice a lot. You need to find your own style, you need to create your own boomerangs, and you got to find your own mood how to deal with competitive pressure, because that's important. Because when the pressure is on, things are different than during practice. But then also spend a lot of time with other boomerang fellows. Look what they are doing, share your thinking, share your experiences, and learn from them. I think that's very important, and the rest will follow. I just read a book on a ski star, Anna Veit. She's Austrian and she's a world-class ski athlete. And she wrote a book. I had the pleasure to meet her this year, and she wrote a book on skiing, and there was one sentence in there that really resonated with me a lot. And I took that sentence to the European Championships in Wales this year, and the simple sentence is, focus on what you can influence. And that is so true in boomeranging, because you can get very upset about the wind conditions. You feel like your opponent has much better wind than you. It doesn't help you at all. Focus on what you can influence. Concentrate on your throws. Stay focused on what you do, and that really helped me big time this summer. There's probably, it's hard to tell by the way, but there's probably two I use the most still, which is the Mobius shape, a tri-blader that I still use for doubling and sometimes trick catching. And then there's the Highlander MTA shape, which I have used also this year at the European Championships. It has served me very well. And maybe the Ice Runner fast catch as well. But those three are probably the ones I still use the most and treasure the most. Well, a very honest answer is I am quite sad about the state the boomerang sport is in these days. It's actually quite depressive, because we have lost many boomerang enthusiasts in the past years. The global family of boomerangers has gotten smaller and smaller, and there seems to be much more alternatives to the wonderful sport of boomerangs, and consequently we are small groups at tournaments. Sometimes we struggle to have enough throwers for a tournament even. And that's sad to see, because boomerangs give you so much, and it's so much fun and such a big pleasure to spend time with boomerangs and boomerang partners around the globe. So I'm sad about that, but I have the hope that there will be a different development where numbers of boomerang throwers will pick up again. And actually I feel very privileged that I had the opportunity to be with the sport when it had its absolute peak. And I remember tournaments with over 130 throwers at the German nationals, and that was actually getting to the maximum limit that we could manage to host the tournament. But hopefully this will happen again. I keep my fingers crossed, actually. First of all, it's a small sport, it's not a major sport, and that enables us to be a global family of friends. There is no money involved, we just do it for the pleasure and the fun of doing it. We support each other, we don't disclose any developments, we share them openly. So that is one very special topic. Then it probably is that we make our boomerangs ourselves. I mean, I used to do BMX biking, I used to do skateboarding and play tennis. But then boomerangs came, and the fascination is that you design your own boomerangs, you design your own airfoils, you create boomerangs that suit perfectly your individual throw. So that was something I experienced to be very, very different and special, differentiating from other sports. But then there's also, I mean, this social element, and it's this global family that is way different. You visit friends in other countries, you go there and stay with them, stay at their homes, share a piece of their lives, and that is much more intense and much more friendship than in any other sport I have experienced. Also, there's the history piece about it. I mean, boomerangs have been used thousands of years ago, and the eldest boomerang ever found, or throw stick I should rather say, is over 20,000 years old, and I have not heard of any tennis racket being that old, actually. So that is very special about boomerangs and gives it some more depth and color, obviously. And then there's one more thing that is quite equal to other sports. It's you try to be the best. You try to get that 1/10 of a second more speed, or the one catch more than the other person throwing. But that doesn't differentiate from other sports. That's more the communality. If you look at intense competitions like the World Cup, like the European Championships or so, you really want to win this one. I mean, it would be lying saying otherwise, right? So there is, of course, a pretty intense competitiveness in there, but it's not a badly motivated one. It is actually trying to be better. You don't hope for the other to fail. You really push hard for yourself being better and try to get motivated to beat the other one. Because it was always a fun tournament to be in. I like the whole atmosphere that you created here. It was the right mixture of a laid-back atmosphere, of sun on the beach and just enjoyment, but on the other hand, great conditions to perform. And that combination was very unique, and it came from the heart. You could tell that the organizers have been always very much involved, and that is brilliant. Plus, you have the major benefit that it happens on Mallorca. You're right here on the beach, and there's not too many other places where you rather want to be at this time of the year.